this guy, man. The costume, next level commitment. Oh, shit! That's an actual body! That's an actual body! One of my guests is trying to kill us!
Oh my God, I don't even know what I just saw! Let's start the show!
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt, joined by our ever-present co-host, Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, man, if there's one thing you can say about Brian Brushwood is he's ever present. But more importantly, what the hell did I just lay eyes upon, Bryce?
That is The Body. It is the first of the Hulu 12-part monthly series Into the Dark that Blumhouse Television is doing.
Okay.
And so this one's based on Halloween, and it's about a hitman who has to transport a dead body through a Halloween party where everyone thinks he's just got a really great costume.
Did I see what I thought I just saw? A body wrapped in saran wrap, and
yeah.
then the squish, and then the blood, and the all right.
Yeah.
That's congratulations, audio listeners. Good for you.
That's coming
Dodged a bullet.
October. I believe that's October 2nd or October 5th. Early October is when that's coming on Hulu.
Excellent. Well, joining us today, very happy to have on the show Jeff Peterson. He's one of two other people who sat at the purple table in kindergarten with me. He wrote a letter to Jimmy Carter in 1980 that we received this response to about the Moscow Olympics, and also is the senior customer manager at Mars Wrigley Confectionery.
Hello.
Let's unpack it. First of all, I like your Perry Mason. You're showing off evidence, like Exhibit A. There is that a real letter from the White House?
Yes, it is. White House.
Why do you have it and not Jeff?
Oh, because Jeff gave it to me at our class reunion a couple weeks ago.
Okay, Jeff, did you have so many of these that you just felt like throwing them away? What's going on here?
I had one. Tom and I wrote it to the president. We actually got a response. We were shocked. We were 10 years old, I think.
Yeah.
It stayed in a box after that at my house for, up until a few weeks ago.
That is amazing. Okay, so we have would it be fair to say a presidential correspondent insofar as you guys definitely corresponded with the president?
Exactly. We literally corresponded.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If I can put that on my resume, I'm fine with it.
We can now. Brian, you've done us both a service here. You know, we've now beefed up our resumes because of that.
Well, write the president and tell him how great I am.
But the other reason for having Jeff on the show is working at Mars. You're sort of in the business that keeps theaters in money so that they can keep showing movies to us, sort of.
Sort of, yeah. I would agree, yeah. I mean, obviously, they don't make a lot of money on the ticket, right? There's not a lot of margin in ticket sales for them. So anything they can do to get more people buying more concessions, that's where I come in.
That's one of the things we've talked about before is I don't want to exaggerate and say that there's no money in the ticket sales, but almost certainly people should be thinking of movie theaters as essentially restaurants or concession stands that happen to run an entertaining picture show upon which they make virtually no money. Is that an exaggeration to say?
Yeah, I don't think so. No, especially now when you look at the trend. So as concession sales tend to slow down or traffic really slows down, right? Less people coming through the doors. They're trying to figure out more ways to sell more things. So that's why you see this new trend that's happening in the movie bistros, right? They're essentially becoming restaurants that show a movie rather than movie houses that happen to sell candy or food.
Sure.
Is that a bad thing for the confectionery industry, or do you lean right into that and say, great, the more food people are buying at a restaurant, the more candy we can sell them?
So for us, I mean, selfishly, it's a bad thing for us, right? Mm-hmm. Because from a marketing standpoint, the AMCs of the world, they're probably the best example. They're taking up all their marketing inventory, if you will. So, all their social, mobile, digital, all that space is being spent marketing food or alcohol rather than concessions and candy. So
where you used to see the M&Ms on screen to make you want to go buy some M&Ms, now they show like a delicious chicken sandwich and a beer.
Exactly. AMC is probably the best example. So if you notice, they'll always pair an alcoholic beverage, some kind of new mixed drink with every new big movie release. And market the heck out of it, right? So that's marketing space that if they didn't sell alcohol, that would be going to M&Ms, for instance.
You're kind of blowing my mind here, Jeff, because now all of a sudden I'm thinking about something as simple as a gas station. Like we think of a gas station as a place you go to get gas, but gasoline is a commodity upon which they make basically $0 per gallon sold. Really, the way they make their money is on the candies and such that you buy when you happen to go to the place that has the gas. So just as from a movie perspective, you need art in your life, so you go to the art downloadable service, aka a movie theater, and while you're there, you have to eat, and then that's where a company like all companies, whatever, can make their money. I never thought of a gas station as a candy store that happens to sell gas to attract people to stop by. That's amazing.
No, absolutely. When you think about gas prices, so I used to deal in that sort of business as well. So gas prices go up. People make less trips. They buy less gas. It crushes each convenience store, right? Because less trips inside. But the challenge is always, how do you get somebody from the gas pump? I know we're getting off topic, into the building. And a lot of times they'll do rewards programs or things like that, anything to incentivize. And that's why you see more advertising at the pump, for instance.
Or when they move and they put in the wrong zip code by accident, then they'll have to go in and use it. Yeah. That happened to me yesterday.
Okay. Man, you've already given us so much to think about, and we haven't even gotten to our primary target.
Yeah, let's do it. Recode's Ronnie Mala has an article about the types of content the different streaming services are making according to Ampere Analysis. Ampere Analysis kind of looked at all of the stuff that's out there, all of the stuff that's been announced, and broke it down by types. So, for instance, Netflix makes the most original shows, period, of any network. 245 original shows available. Of course, time limit. We're not counting CBS going back into the 50s, et cetera. But across the same amount of time, 255 shows are available right now and 257 on the way. Amazon has 80 available. HBO, been around for a while, only has 69 shows available for you to stream. YouTube Premium has 60 shows available. That's the old YouTube Red. Facebook Watch, 45 original shows available. Showtime only has 40, and Hulu Originals only has 34. Then when you look at the upcoming break, Netflix, 21% comedy, 20% sci-fi and fantasy, 16% drama. Amazon, 27% drama, 25% sci-fi and fantasy, 16% comedy. And then it starts to change. YouTube, 40% comedy. Hulu has comedy and drama, but also 15% crime and thriller. Facebook, 30% news. Apple, all planned at this point, except for Carpool Karaoke and a couple others. 26% comedy, 26% crime and thriller. HBO, 39% drama, 20% comedy, 17% sci-fi and fantasy. So there's a trend in here where you can say, like, these streaming services definitely targeting comedies, sci-fi, fantasy, and drama, but also, Brian, I'm wondering if we're starting to see a little differentiation the way we've seen certain networks be known, like NBC was known for comedies and CBS known for crime dramas, or even more like sci-fi, a sci-fi network known for sci-fi. Are we seeing the streaming services start to differentiate that way as well?
Certainly we're seeing them casting about. We have seen them cast about for a while, trying to figure out their own unique voice. And I think they're settling into different niches where it's like, in general, like it makes sense that when I think of Amazon, I think of their dominant drama offerings. Same thing with HBO and so on. Certainly with YouTube, a brand that has forever been associated with cat videos and skateboarding dogs or whatever, like it would make sense that it would be dominant in the comedy category. I don't have a take on this, but my gut instinct is that I would love to know what the relationship is to how long a platform has been around to what area it tends to be dominant in. Now, in the case of HBO, we know that they were an outlier in the days of broadcast television. Back before cable was allowed in the Emmys, the Cable Ace Awards, they realized, what we're going to do is we're going to dominate. Let's figure out what niches are underserved. Let's serve them. And a lot of them were long-form dramatic content, for example, your Sopranos and so on. And of course, that's the playbook that FX, the cable channel, later tried to ape. When it comes to Netflix, the fact that so much of their, I'm curious as to why Amazon has leaned so dramatic in their content lineup, whereas Netflix seems to have been spread out fairly evenly over all categories. And
it's hard to compare to Netflix because they have 245 shows available and 257 on the way. Their play is to be everything. So 21% comedy, okay, but it's pretty flat. Almost everything is close to 20% across the spectrum.
Plus, also keep in mind that Netflix, as they go into, let's say, niches like anime, do you categorize anime as a comedy, a drama, or a sci-fi, or all of the above?
That's up to Ampere analysis, but I'm sure you could categorize it as anime. And it wouldn't necessarily affect these numbers a lot. Crunchyroll is going to be 100% anime.
Sure.
So we have a couple of these that are differentiated. The way I'm thinking about this, and I'm curious from the outside, Jeff, how you see this as well, given what streaming services you use. It feels like right now the problem is there's too many streaming services and they all offer everything. I wonder if the solution to that is, one, we start to see some of these go under and decide, like, you know what, we can't compete with Netflix. We can't even compete with Amazon. We're going away. Or if some of them, instead of going under, decide to specialize, and the fact that you don't have to subscribe to so many of them means that maybe there can be more single type like Crunchyroll out there. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that?
That's exactly what I was thinking, Tom, as you were going through, right? If Netflix is all things to all people, at some point, if these other guys can't compete, they're going to have to specialize, right? You see that in business as well. So that would be my guess at where it's all heading. That is, if nobody can compete with Netflix.
Well, and I think people can. I think your instinct is, I'm hearing you, is correct. Nobody. Netflix is Goliath, right? You don't take Goliath on face to face. However, there are, you can compete in increasingly small sub niches, right? Where you get increasingly specific about all these things, where it's like, okay, maybe you can't win in drama, but you can win in sci-fi alternate reality dramas. That's a place that you can win. And you can, maybe you can't win in comedy, but you can win in romantic comedies with a dark Black Mirror twist. Yeah, that kind of thing.
When you think about it, so I think of everything in retail terms because that's where I work, right? So if you think about a Walmart, they're kind of all things to all people, right? Like they service all products, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that, another business that specializes in something that Walmart's carrying can't be impactful. And it's just about a different strategy. So I trust this smaller brand that only does hardware because they have some other service that I value, right, as a customer. So does that make sense? Like, can they specialize, but you trust them more because they specialize, so they're way more successful in that smaller niche?
Well, so we've got the four main brands. We got your Hulu, your Netflix, your Amazon, and I guess YouTube. We'll throw them in there, right? And we've seen they've all been roughly around for the same amount of time, and we've watched them jockey for position. And I don't know that they chose their individual niches that they've ended up, or maybe so much just found themselves there. But this begins the phase where everybody leans into where they are, and I would say Amazon seems to be the leader in that, as far as figuring out, like, hey, with Man in the High Castle, we're but now that I say that, I'm thinking about Hulu originals like I don't know. I got nothing.
I'm trying to make an analog to the fact that we've had four major broadcast channels that are variety, right? And then then we have all these cable channels, some of which may be variety like USA, but they focus on an aspect like drama, or TBS focuses on comedy, all the way down to the genre channels like sci-fi.
But I would say, like, going back to the beginning of your statement, we had these four major networks that were all variety based. In that time, they would carve out different time chunks for different types of content. There was a time for sitcom, and then after 10 p.m.
You said had. We still have them, and they're still extremely popular. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, they still get the biggest ratings for the most part. You know, it's a surprise when a cable show like Walking Dead beats a broadcast show still. So I wonder if there's still, if that's where we end up, which is like, we do like having a Netflix that is just kind of all things to all people. And we liked having a couple of those. So maybe Amazon, Hulu stick around, and everybody else who wants to get in this game has to specialize. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like the trend as far as I could tell. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm glad we solved that. Good work, Jeff.
You're welcome, networks.
No charge. You can take that and run with it. Meanwhile, we're going to take your money and run with it into the rest of the episode, because you support us directly on Patreon. That's how we're able to do this show.
Yeah, a quick reminder, have you noticed that there's not any ads on here? That's because you guys support us directly. You guys keep us loud, live, and independent. 6 years ago? My goodness, it's been forever. 6 years ago, we left the network, and then the two of us have been running free, loud, and proud, and it's all because of you guys. If you think this episode is worth a buck, we would love to have it. Head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers and join the ranks of the proud. That's a line I made up.
If you're not giving us $1, you're not proud.
Okay, well, you don't have to be ashamed of.
I don't know. I think they might.
Leave the ranks of the ashamed.
Look, okay,
and join the ranks of the proud.
Either give us $1 or once a week say, I'm ashamed.
Okay.
It's your choice.
Yeah. Legit.
Yeah. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. So this week, it's a tale of two types of hardware. We'll go through the first and talk about it on its own. Then I'd like to compare it to the next announcement. Kaavo, we've talked about them in the past. They're the ones that had the really cool wood grain looking universal remote system that used some AI to try to do visual recognition and see what you were watching and predict what you needed next. They're starting to mature, so they've introduced a cheaper version, the Kaavo Control Center, which is $99. The original Kaavo was $399. There's also an ongoing service fee now, and half the HDMI ports of the earlier one. So you only get 4 HDMI ports. Also, no more customizable wooden covers. It's just a black box. And the service fee is $1.99 a month or $20 for a year. But what that gets you is the machine vision system that also now works with smart TVs. Before, it couldn't see what was on the screen. It had to intercept the video as it was going to the TV, but now it's been working with the smart TV manufacturers to be able to see what's on the TV screen as well, and be able to use HDMI CEC or an API or IR to execute what you want it to do without you having to think about it. You just say, I want to watch Game of Thrones. It figures out what box HBO is on and what device it needs to activate to make that work, and puts it up on the screen for you.
So I would be curious on Jeff's take on this, because it seems to me that this is an artifact of a maturing device that figures out what is it we really offer our viewers, our listeners, our buyers, or whatever. And ultimately, what they want is simplicity. And at that point, you have to figure out, like, okay, we could charge $1,000 for the simplicity box, and you know, at some point you could charge $1 million for the simplicity box, and it's quite literally a concierge or a butler who you just describe what you want and he hands it to you, right? That would be the least efficient version of this. So Kaavo did a 1.0 version of this that was upscale and had the trappings of you know, I don't know, beauty of an Atari 2600. But at some point they figured out, like, okay, well, let's dial it down. Let's only have 4 HDMI ports, and more importantly, we don't need to make it so aesthetically beautiful if what people are really buying is direct access and simplicity in how they talk to it. Have you encountered one of these, Jeff? Do you have a strong take on the place for this concierge level AI device as you interact with television?
My question was, why have I not heard about this?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting piece of equipment, obviously something I might be interested in. I have hundreds of channels and I hate searching. I have 5 favorites and that's what I watch, right? I'm sure there's plenty of other content out there that I would watch if I could find it. And it sounds like this device might be the thing that I could use. So I've never heard of it. I'm sure all your Cordkiller audiences have heard of it. Why have I not heard of it?
I think the price was a big off-putting thing to begin with. I think it was similar to the Tesla Roadster. It was targeted to a very price insensitive group of people, where it's just like, hey man, you got all the money in the world, give us $400, we're going to make this real simple for you. Look, it looks real pretty and it's upscale, you're going to have a great time with it. And now we're at the point where they think and again, this is all me as an outsider just watching this, it looks like they're figuring out, oh no, we're really onto something. What people want is a chaotic environment made simple, and we have that service that we could do. Let's figure out how to make it plastic. Let's figure out how to get the price real low. Let's figure out another thing, smart move to make it a monthly service thing. Like that's the kind of thing, I'll pay $2.99 a month for somebody to make everything simple for me. It's cheaper. Think about this. Think about the one time per month that out of frustration, you can't find a show and you end up just buying it for what price? $2.99. So instead, just give us that $2.99 once a month, and we'll make it real easy for you to find the show.
It's only $1.99. I think your mind can't accept that it's that cheap, right? Because
no, it could not. Quite literally.
But when I was reading the story just now, I was like, and it's like, what, $4.99? And then I look at the words in front of me and I'm like, $1.99? Really? Like, part of me is like, I don't want to have a service fee. But at that price, you're like, you know what? I'll just pay the $20, right?
I mean,
if you can
almost
afford the
affordable.
$99, you can probably afford the $2 a month.
I mean, it's practically the price of 2 packets of peanut M&Ms, the most delicious confectionery.
Not in the theater, though, Brian.
Oh, sorry.
In the theater.
You need the whole big bag in the theater.
Cover 2 bags.
Yeah. Or the caramel M&Ms, which I can say are quite delicious as well.
There we go.
No, I think you're right about the service fee, because it brings that price down to a point where people are like, oh, it's $99. Okay, but and a universal remote, that's pretty great. They're sort of trying to eat Logitech's lunch with the Harmony.
By the way,
and doing it better.
Separate story. In spoiler in time, we're going to talk about Dirk Gently's holistic detective agency. I was this close to just buying it because my VPN was turned on. I couldn't. I logged in. And it was like, you're in Canada. You can't. And then I poked around and it gave me different answers. And I got just the right amount of frustrated that I thought, it would be easy spending $2.99 and making it go away. So the idea that as insurance, I could just do $1.99 a month and never have to worry about this again, very compelling.
Now, here's the other piece of hardware I wanted to compare this to. TiVo has a new set-top box, the Bolt OTA. This will join the existing lineup of TiVo Bolt branded devices, including the voice-controlled Bolt Vox DVRs that they launched last year. The new device is aimed at people who want to watch live TV over the air and replaces the old classic, the TiVo Romeo OTA DVR. That's the one I used for many years, which will no longer be sold. While the 1 terabyte Bolt Vox is $300 with a $15 a month subscription TiVo service plan, the 1 terabyte Bolt OTA is $250 and has a monthly fee of $7. So basically, for the difference of not having to support cable card, you save $50 on the price of the box and half the monthly service fee. It's available online now and coming to stores October 7th.
Tom, I'm not going to lie. It's fairly stark after our previous story, seeing the difference in prices on this. A $400 device goes to $99 plus $199 a month. New story, it's $300 plus $15 per month, gone down to $7 a month. I mean, this is this just a relic of the past? I mean, is TiVo like?
I'm tempted to do the same thing and go like, oh, your hot new product, TiVo, is the old product without cable card and a $50 discount. Great. But they are 2 different machines. One is a universal remote that can control your TiVo if you want. Like it's agnostic. It just says, for those of you who want to have more than one box, we'll make it easy for you to manage everything. TiVo is saying, we want you to have everything in a box so that you can just talk to the box, and we'll have all the apps and we'll have your over-the-air stuff, and it'll all be in one place.
And it's totally worth pointing out that there is a definite difference between somebody who can use a Kaavo because they have, let's say, gigabit fiber at their house, right? Everything's all over the internet, whereas the OTA matters. These are people who are trying to consume media entertainment, but for whatever reason, my guess is if they had gigabit fiber, they would not be using a TiVo over-the-air antenna device.
Potentially, yeah, unless there's a channel that they get over the air that isn't available on Sling TV or PlayStation View or something like that, right? Or like my sister, she can stream Netflix because Netflix does really good bandwidth management, but she can't really use all the streaming services out there. So they have DirecTV, but they could do this. They could get an over-the-air signal and actually, combine it that way. So it's good for folks in those kinds of situations where, yeah, maybe one or two apps on the TiVo will work for them, but their bandwidth isn't so good that, or maybe they have a cap, and so they'd rather use over-the-air most of the time. Jeff, what do you make of the comparison between these two?
I mean, for me, obviously, I'm thinking from a brand perspective. TiVo, I mean, it doesn't seem as interesting as just a brand perspective as a Kaavo to me. I'm a layman, so I don't know anything about specs and things like that. But just strictly from brand, I mean, I'm kind of with you, Tom.
No, I'd hate to say
same thing.
I'd hate to say it, but I think you're 100% right, Jeff. It just feels like TiVo is the hot new thing from 20 years ago. Yeah. and I think we've all been waiting for them to evolve, and I don't feel like they've evolved to the level I would like.
It's frustrating because they're doing all the right things like 2 years after they needed to, right? Like this Bolt, the OTA DVR is exactly what I wanted 2 years ago. Exactly. But now I'm like, I don't even really use the antenna that much anymore. I could just do a Tableau or something cheaper if I really want that. I don't need this. I don't think just like a couple steps behind.
That's the other thing too, especially as we're seeing transformative leaps and bounds forward in terms of getting internet bandwidth to all of the world. Just the over the hair air. I don't know. I'm over the hair. HARE. I'm imagining the hair as a rabbit that I jumped over.
Not all of us have conductive hair that can receive television transmissions. So,
although I did my best back in the day with the spikes.
You really did. I forgot about that. All right, let's move on and talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
I like this trade. It's all about location. Under Surveillance.
There's a new trailer out for Star Wars Resistance. Shows a lot of space battles, some X-Wing fighters. Flies onto the Disney Channel and Disney XD October 7th. Who's excited for Star Wars Resistance and more space battles?
I think I am. Separate question, and I mean no political. I ain't got no dog in the political fight or whatever. How do you think Disney, the company, feels about the increased politicization of the word resistance?
No, that's a great question because they had it first.
Right.
People forget that. Resistance was in The Force Awakens before it was being used politically. But that has flipped where people think of resistance to mean a liberal ideology now. And it starts to feel like it's Star Wars imitating that, even though that's not at all true.
Well, and of course, in the long latency production time of any kind of animated anything, it's like, they had to create all this, before knowing this is where people were going to adopt that terminology.
It's a direct parallel of Star Wars Rebels, which was about the beginning of the rebellion. This is Resistance, which is about the beginning of the resistance.
Yeah, only that word means something different now.
It's so frustratingly weird.
At this point, though, what can they do? What are the options, right?
I mean, I guess the only moves they have at this point, this late in the development cycle, is they could certainly shape the advertising for it. They can make some edits if they need to, if there's something that they're afraid is going to read as too red state or blue state. But outside of that, I don't even know. I mean, it really is this kind of glacial. It moves on its own. It's got its own momentum right now.
Now, would this be different if it were a more adult targeted show? I mean, does that change the game because it's a Disney product?
Well,
is the resistant piece less valuable or less important?
I suspect it's more valuable in that it's one of those perfect Rorschach tests because you've got a lot of people who are interested in Star Wars, grew up with it, and they're now in their, midlife, give or take. And maybe to them, it's a benefit what it means as a reflection, however subtle, of the current reality in American politics. But on the flip side, you also get away with it being like, it's a kid's show. I don't know.
I mean, you could call it. I'm not even going to go there.
that's you know what? Let's do that. Star
I think that
Wars.
Was the Disney. I
not
think that
even
was the
gonna
Disney
go
meeting.
there.
It was like, maybe we should change the name. Well, we could call it. Forget it.
Star Wars. I don't know.
Just watch it.
I'm excited for it, though. I really like the trailer, and I thought it looked good. New season of MST3K arrives on Netflix once again on Turkey Day, Thanksgiving Day, November 22nd.
This is the second season?
Yep. Second season with the new cast.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Dude, that's fantastic. That's good news.
Jeff, did you ever watch MST3K?
I did. Yeah. Years ago. Wasn't Patton Oswalt involved at some point?
Yep.
Yeah, he's still in it. Felicia Day is still in it. So, yeah. Netflix is going to be the carrier for DC's Titans series outside of the U.S. If you're in the U.S., of course, it'll be on DC Universe, and that launches October 12th. We didn't get a date on when it will premiere on Netflix. Usually with these deals, though, they premiere around the same time.
So this is forgive me, I know it started off as a relatively adult property that was made into a comedy cartoon called Teen Titans Go, which is how most of us know it, but this is going back to the original of the Titans
this is
crew.
very adult looking.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And like Star Trek Discovery or Better Call Saul, Netflix, kind of willing to be flexible and pick it up outside the U.S. if they can.
Yeah.
Hulu's got a first look at season 2 of Marvel's Runaways. Hulu is dropping all episodes at once this time on December 21st.
Is that a sign of confidence for Runaways, or is that a sign of please don't make us have to cancel Runaways?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, because I can see the argument both ways. It could be a sign of confidence, like, oh, we don't have to string you out with weekly drops.
We're not tied to your broadcast
so let's
agenda.
give it to you all at once. Yeah. Or it could be, if we try to string you out with weekly drops, you may stop watching. Let's give it to you all at once, and maybe you'll binge it.
Do you think it could be? Do we have a date on that Disney streaming service? Is that 2019?
Oh, that's
we don't have
interesting.
a date yet, but it's 2019. Yeah.
Because it could be Disney saying, "Let's clear the decks. You got it. Push it out."
Everything.
I wonder how much leverage a company has on that with Hulu. Usually the production company doesn't get to tell the broadcast company when to air something. They have full control over their schedule. I would assume Hulu would have that same control, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't have a strong read on this either way.
So Disney has a stake in Hulu.
Yeah, they do.
But they don't manage it. There's a big difference.
Well, okay. We all agree that Disney is not telling Hulu what to do, but there's that whisper
network. There could be a strong suggestion of
right.
Really
hey,
like
you know what would be great is just, we're trying. Here's our initiative: is we're trying to clear the deck of all these mid-completion projects, and we just want them out.
And then the conversation goes, and when Fox's merger gets approved, we'll own most of you, so we'll be your bosses for real.
I mean, you guys do whatever you're gonna do.
Right for Hulu. We want you to do what's right for Hulu, which is to drop all these at once.
Right, but we're just saying on our end, this is what we're aiming for. But you do whatever. Also, what's your name and how long have you been with the company?
First trailer for Dark Phoenix, which is an XMen movie, but it's called Dark Phoenix, not X-Men Returns to Dark Phoenix or anything like that. This is the one with Jamie McAvoy as Professor X, that cast of X-Men. Shows Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner, pretty much being furious for all kinds of good reasons, and is out February 14th.
What do you think? What do you lay odds? Play odds maker on this.
I feel like they're trying to borrow a little bit of Logan and throw it into X-Men First Class and see if both positives stick. And it could go either way. I'm going to say 64% awesome.
And this is a movie or
yeah, it's a movie. It's the kind of movie that you want to buy a lot of candy and sit down and eat while you watch.
Okay, fair enough.
So my question to you two would be X-Men fatigue. At what point does that happen?
No, it's called Dark Phoenix.
To your point, Jeff, you're not wrong. spent a lot of time, it's some of the younger listeners may not even remember that the Marvel Renaissance began with X-Men movies, and that we've been around for a long time. But the X-Men franchise is a rich enough tapestry that we've been able to see it reinvent itself in multiple different ways, not only with with First Class, and then again with Logan, in a totally different direction in a Splinter universe, and then of course in a comedy direction with Deadpool. I'm left with the strong feeling that unlike the Star Wars universe, the X-Men universe, I hate to say it, the X-Men universe is bigger than the Star Wars universe. Like somehow the X-Men universe has been able to go to all these interesting corners and reinvent itself in different directions, whereas all we get with the Star Wars universe so far.
You're saying the story universe is bigger, and I think I 100% agree. You're not saying the universe of fans is bigger, is what I'm trying to...
I'm saying in execution, the X-Men universe has managed to demonstrate a wider diversity of storytelling places to go than so far Disney's stewardship of Star Wars has been.
Yeah. But at the same time, the fact that they're calling it Dark Phoenix, not X-Men, the fact that I had to point out, like, this is the one with the Jamie McAvoy, Professor X, I think there is a little fatigue out there.
Yeah, but also like they called it Logan. They didn't call it X-Men's Logan,
Good point. Right.
And meanwhile,
exactly.
Logan is undisputably, Logan is not only undisputably the best of all the X-Men movies, it's, I would say, indisputably the best comic book movie, full stop.
It was very clearly not an X-Men movie, even from the trailer, whereas this looks like an X-Men movie to me, just not called an X-Men movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
You touched on it, Tom. I mean, is that the strategy to do away or move away from the X-Men in the title altogether because of potential fatigue?
I mean, maybe, yeah. I think, or maybe a thing they tried with Logan and it worked so well, they're like, let's keep doing that.
Think about it this way. Like, it's not like when we see a girl with the dragon tattoo or whatever, it's like a Swedish movie. It's like that's just the land where it takes place, right? Or if we see a bunch of Greek gods, it's like a Greek movie. No, it's
in a world where Greek gods are Swedish,
right?
And X-Men.
Like I think that's an indication that these myths and characters are familiar to us all. Is that you don't need to mention it's an X-Men movie.
By the way, Zylophany is calling me out for calling James McAvoy Jamie. I don't know why I felt friendly to him today. And my old buddy Jamie McAvoy. But yes,
Jamie
all respect to James McAvoy, his actual name.
J-Dog.
J-Dog Mac. J-Mac. Hey, what do we got our eyes on? One or two things you've been watching recently that you loved. Jeff Peterson, what's been filling your eyeballs?
Oh, wow. So I recently watched, this is not highbrow stuff, but Paradise PD on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that. It's from the creators of Brickleberry. So it's an animated series. It's sort of like Simpsons and Family Guy, but a lot more adult, if you will. So I loved it personally.
So is this a Netflix original or? Mm-hmm.
It is, yeah. It just this is probably 3 weeks ago, maybe. It was up.
Yeah, it's
Did I
pretty
throw you
recent
both the
release.
curveball? You haven't seen this or heard of it?
And so is this one I want to watch with kids or adults or?
No, do not watch with kids. Yes. So
in other words, let the kids watch that by themselves and then just leave them unattended. Watch it.
I know we talked about it briefly once, and I saw it kind of flip up on my recommended one day, but I never got a chance to dig into it. So I'm glad you're letting us know about it.
It's more along the lines of a Deadpool as far as how raunchy it really is. So you're not going to want to, have the kids in the room when you watch it. But
certain kids,
that's part of the enjoyment of it, if you will.
Oh, very cool. Brian, what about yourself?
Better Call Saul, good place. Of course, I watched episodes 1 and 2. I think they showed them back to back, right, Bryce?
Yeah, they put it in, and it's one episode on Hulu. The numbering is always bad.
I hate it when they do that. Yeah.
So bad.
And of course, we started Dirk Gently, which we'll talk about in spoiler in time. But most importantly, I have been wasting all my time on a little thing called Spider-Man. That game is amazing. I know we're primarily about video entertainment and not video games, but let me just say one of the great things about Spider-Man is I have a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 14-year-old, and me, and all of us have been able to enjoy various aspects of the game. There's a logic puzzle. We hand over the controls to my 14-year-old daughter, who's able to solve the logic puzzle. We get to the storytelling element, and my 5-year-old hits all the buttons to go. We have to get from point A to point B, so we have to web sling. So my 10-year-old does it. Oh crap! There's a battle. Quick, hand the controller over to Dad. It's a blast. Like enjoying this as a family, and how good the narrative story has been so far. How far into it are you, Bryce?
I think I'm 50%. The game says I'm 50%.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. Highly, highly, highly recommended. If for no other reason than its narrative value.
So in our show where we tell people what TV shows they can discover and watch, Brian's recommendation is don't watch TV, play Spider-Man.
Go play a video game.
Hi. Also, that's been what Brian said for 8 years running. So to the surprise of exactly nobody.
I was going to pick Dirk Gently as the thing I watched this week that I love the most because I haven't actually watched that much, still doing my move. But last night, Poldark, the period drama that's set in Cornwall from, I think it's like Channel 4 in the BBC, but it's on PBS here in the US, finally hit. And I'm gonna put that back on here because it's a period romance. It's got some battles. It's got some fun stuff to keep people of all interests motivated to watch it. But we had so much fun last holiday season watching this that watching it last night on the last day of September made it feel like Christmas in the house. And I think that says something for a show. If it's that powerful that can like pull you back to a time with a new episode, with new things happening. So yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Poldark. Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, we got a letter from Kevin. He writes, hello, Cordkillers. I have a recommendation. It is Extinction on Netflix. This is not a good movie, but it does something unique. I won't spoil anything, but make sure you don't watch any trailers or read the reviews. It's very important to go unspoiled. Thank you, Kevin H. We talked about this on the show a couple months ago before it was launching. It's an alien invasion movie starring Michael Pena. I share Kevin's sentiment that it might not be a very good film. I think it's serviceable, but I think if you also want a low stakes alien action movie that you can go in blind on, you could do worse than Extinction, and you probably already have Netflix. So
man, put that on the poster. You could do worse.
You could do worse, Bryce. Cordkillers.
That's right. So that's Extinction, streaming now on Netflix.
By the way, I think it's worth mentioning that there's a place for that type of entertainment.
Yeah,
low stakes entertainment, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's not trying to
you got permission to walk away at any moment. Right. My guess is you'll definitely have like 6 really good rounds of Hearthstone while it's on in the background.
And it's not even it's I think it's an hour and a half, so it's not like you're going to be stuck with a 2.5 hour.
I tell you what, I mean that is the reason my wife is watching that Chinese teen romance Meteor Garden show, because she's like, I can't handle. She's like, she wasn't even sure she could handle Poldark, to be honest. And she's like, I just need something that I can take my brain off.
That's interesting. The idea of television that something as something that doesn't request too much of you. Like stop being so needy, television. I just want you on in the background to keep me company.
Sometimes you want the challenge and you want to think and you want to watch like a Fargo or something, but
or a Black Mirror.
Death in Paradise is mine, where I'm just like, I know exactly how this is going to go. I don't know exactly who the killer is, but it's relaxing.
And this is just a movie. This is just an hour and a half. So like, even if it was a bad TV series, it's still a much shorter time investment.
That's how I felt about what was that? There was that movie that takes place on the moon around Europa. And it turns out there was aliens on Europa, and it had the dude
2001.
No. The other Europa one. And there was like
Europa?
squirrely. No, okay, all right. You're killing me. You're killing me. It's got the dude from District 9 in it.
Chappie?
Okay, yes, Chappie. Sure, let's say Chappie.
Jeff, I was going to put you on the spot. See if any low stakes programming that you love came to mind that you're willing to admit to.
Oh, gosh. Probably not that I'm willing to admit to. Probably reality TV, right? Like it sounds a lot like when you say you could do worse. It's brain candy, right? You don't want to think about it. You just want to sit there, Maybe you're on your iPad, you're half watching, you're doing other things. Your brain is actually occupied doing something else, but you're watching. So I kind of get the sci-fi thing. If the brain candy that you like is sci-fi, maybe that's where you go with it. For me, I'd just rather not mention any of my terrible shows.
It was
totally
Europa Report. That's what it was. That's a good low stakes
So I was
sci-fi.
half right.
Yes, pretty
I've
much.
Never heard of that.
Oh no,
It's a
we talked
movie?
about it on Weird Things.
Okay.
Okay.
We're good.
Hey, folks, if you got something we should be on the lookout for, low stakes, highbrow, lowbrow, whatever, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Brian, how's things at Scam Stuff?
Look, man, you want to talk lowbrow, you want to talk highbrow, regardless, you should be ashamed of your brow and you should cover it with a hat. And while you're wearing a hat, covering up that disgusting brow of yours, somebody might come up and attack you. Guess what? You got to be ready. You got to kick them in the butt. And if only you had a hat that was convertible into a weapon, something that was filled with a bunch of heavier than lead buckshot that you were able to turn into a blackjack and snap their wrist bones with it. Guess what? That exists. It's over at scamstuff.com right now. It's called The Rogue's Revenge. And for the first time in classic ball cap style, it is available right now.
Oh,
he's
Tom's walking away.
off.
He's got a DTNS hat.
That's ashamed.
Yeah. Okay, but you're not any tougher. See, that's the problem. Is you're just
I still
just
need to go
ashamed.
buy the Rogue's Revenge hat. Though,
That's, yeah,
to
see,
defend
all right.
myself.
Maybe we can make a special DTNS edition of the Rogue's
that'd be
Revenge
amazing.
hat.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Bloomberg sources say an upcoming episode of Black Mirror will let Netflix users choose what happens at certain points in the storyline. It's the first interactive story meant for adults that Netflix has done, and the first of several experiments along those lines. The sources tell Bloomberg Netflix has a deal for more live action interactive stories, one done, and is negotiating the rights for two others. And some of those are based on video games, though
Jeff,
they aren't actually video games themselves.
Jeff, maybe I'm alone in this one, but I read this and I'm just like, a show I have to watch twice because, it's not like I'm just gonna pick one and be like, well, that's the ending I got, Like, do you like this? Do you like being handed homework from the Twilight Zone of the 21st century?
Brian, I think you nailed it. That's exactly what I was thinking as Tom is going through this. I'm thinking now I have to pick my own ending. We were just talking about, I was just mentioning brain candy and turning my brain off. For that type of consumer, right, there's no way I'm going to go and just pick my ending. I don't want to deal with that. Just tell me how it ends. Unless it's, one of those kind of movies that we're all frustrated or sometimes frustrated with where they kind of let you pick the ending. They don't let you actually physically go out and pick A or B, right? There are those movies that just stop and you have to figure out what happened. Like, I'm okay with that.
That's a great idea.
Point, I don't have to go down both roads, which you will do.
What if you had the movie come out and with a straight face they said, this is the movie, end of discussion. And then you let everybody get real frustrated with how it went. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Would you had to have seen things go differently? Guess what? You can. like make that a surprise. Don't lead with that.
If it's so bad, people hate it. Everyone's just gonna say, "Why didn't you just put out the good version?"
Because everybody will have a different version of what the good one is. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Plex is trimming some of the features it says are not used much, like plugins, Cloud Sync, and the Watch Later bookmarking feature. Plex even jokingly tweeted, "DM us a photo of your Cloud Sync library." And today's newspaper. Plugins which let users and services from places like Pandora and CNN were used by fewer than 2% of Plex users. Its protocol is out of date and would need to be rebuilt to keep it going. Plex also added support for subtitles, which will roll out to Plex Pass preview in the next few days. This is one of those things where it's like in the early days of things, everybody's like, and also it can make toast. And then eventually you figure out like nobody wants to make toast using Plex.
Well, and there's like 1% of Plex users who love making toast who are going to get really angry. And so Plex is like, look, it just isn't worth it. Yeah, we let you make toast with Plex for years. But over the years, the costs just mount, and now it's broken. It only toasts half your bread, and to fix it, we'd have to build an entirely new toaster. So we're just not going to make toast with Plex anymore. We're sorry, okay?
Also, while we're at it, you're having entirely too many carbs. Have you tried moving to the Mediterranean diet?
Yes, we do have an olive oil press coming.
I like the olive juice
shortly.
press.
MoviePass has been re-enrolling lapsed subscribers in its service as part of a select test group of a new plan. Basically, here's how it goes. If you didn't opt in to the most recent changes to 3 movies a month plan, your subscription was suspended. Some people actively canceled, but others were like, you know what? I'm just not going to opt in. I'm just going to let it expire. However, if you did that, as of October 5th, you will start being charged again for a new plan that lets you get 1 movie a day from existing inventory, basically the old plan. And you only have until 9 p.m. Eastern, October 4th, to opt out of having the suspended subscription restarted.
Jeff, I'm no expert, but this sounds to me like the actions of a company that is super solvent and confident in its future.
Things are good. Yeah. This is, I don't even know why MoviePass is still around or how they continue to exist. I mean, at one point I read they were losing like $25 million a month or some crazy number like that. So if I'm a subscriber to MoviePass, and I just heard what Tom said, I mean, you're kind of getting, messed around. Why would you continue with that? Especially given AMC's subscription model, Cinemark's subscription model, right? There are other choices now.
The scuttlebutt that I heard was that there's some quarter report coming up, and this may help boost subscriber numbers after a big subscriber tank.
I mean,
MoviePass technically is not doing anything wrong because they said, hey, we're going to change your plan, so we can't continue charging you unless you say okay, and we'll have to suspend you if you don't say okay because we want you on the new plan. They suspended you and then said, oh, well, you never actually said cancel, so if we give you your old plan back, we have every right to charge you. But it's not a cool thing to do. It's not a good PR move, but it certainly is within the terms that, if you didn't actively cancel it, basically you never took away your permission to be charged for the plan that you had before.
And there are reports out there that I've seen a few reports of people saying, I definitely canceled. Here's my cancellation confirmation.
Oh,
no. But that,
that's hearsay, and maybe it's true, and maybe there's a mistake in there, and in which case, yes, though that's not okay. Right. That doesn't seem to be what MoviePass is trying to do. What they're trying to do is just slimy.
Yeah. Check your cards, people.
And specifically, I think it's fair to say that even in the abstract, even if they execute everything perfectly and are completely within their legal bounds, certainly this is the type of move that is not made by somebody who's winning.
No, not at all. This is this is just like, trying to bail out the Titanic with a teacup. Like, it's ridiculous.
So speaking of, sorry, go ahead. Do you have a question?
No, I was about to read your line for you.
Speaking of AMC Stubbs A-List, they announced that it has signed up more than 380,000 users in the last 3 months since it launched in July 26th. Members watched more than 363 different movie titles to date. AMC is projecting that it'll see increased U.S. attendance for the first time since 2015. They're also offering a 12-month protection guarantee against changes to the program that could impact its pricing or benefits. Gee golly willikers, Jeff, why do you suppose they're offering that?
That's crazy. What interested me is you said that they're seeing increased traffic. Was that part of the...
Yeah, to me, the surprising part is that this is an extraordinary thing, that for the first time they're seeing increased traffic as a result of this program.
My question would be, is that increased traffic a direct result of MoviePass, or is that just the movie schedule?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. This might be the kind of thing where they already saw a trend because of MoviePass, and now they get to swoop in and tell shareholders, "Hey, take a look at this awesome quarter we had. Possibly unrelatedly, look at this program that we have. Who's great? These guys. Also, who loves Mars products? These guys."
Exactly, and it was a great. It's actually been so. Movie traffic this year has been up all year. Yeah. And last quarter was pretty solid. So when you read that, I just thought, how are they couching this to make it seem like MoviePass is driving this traffic? Or is it just a result of a strong movie schedule for the year?
Or specifically the Stub is A-list plan. It does feel like they're jumping in front of a parade and acting like the leader.
The person with the thing.
Yeah, the thing. The thing guy. They're looking like the thing guy.
The maitre d', right?
The maitre d'. Yes, that's exactly right, Tom.
AMC also offers a 12-month protection guarantee. It's great. Like, cost them nothing, something they'd probably do just to, avoid bad PR anyway. And now, again, it's a little bit jumping in front of parade. Like, hey, and look what else we're already doing that we'd always do for you.
Excuse me, Maitre D', I would like one brass band, please.
Finally, Dish launched a dual tuner adapter for its Air TV player for $29. This is a small thing, but if you're interested in the Air TV, it's good to know. You can now watch a show that is being recorded while recording a second show if you buy this. They're also selling a bundle if you want to get an Air TV player and the dual tuner adapter all in one. It's $119 versus buying them separately would cost you $129. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. Drum major? Maybe a drum major. Anyway, Will writes in and says, hey, Brian and Tom, the other NVIDIA Shield owner here, emailing in as requested. Please tell Steve hi from me. I'm still enjoying the Shield and like that for some apps, it will keep the last few items viewed on the homepage. So picking up where I left off is more convenient. Having not used a Roku in quite a while, I don't know if this is a unique feature or not, but it is appreciated. Also, it's fun to be able to sideload some of the games from my phone onto it. And of course, being able to tap into all my PC games to play at 4K on the biggest screen in the house. Stefano in Italy also said, quick message to say, I use an NVIDIA Shield TV too. In Europe and generally outside the US, they are quite common. They provide a certain degree of freedom in the choice of apps. And they're the only boxes with Plex server, all caps, as far as I know. Keep up the good job. Thank you, Stefano.
Thankfully, we found both of the remaining Shield folks. Keith writes in saying, I'm one of your producers watching and supporting. I heard a cry. I heard a call out for my help. So here you go. He says, I started with the Amazon Fire TV on my 11 TVs. Yes, I live in Indiana with a big house where they're inexpensive 3 years ago. I dabbled with an NVIDIA Shield when they first came out, but I couldn't justify the cost on multiple TVs, so I stuck with the Fire TVs. I then moved to Roku when Google blocked YouTube on the Fire TV. I then missed the ability to customize side-loading apps, so I went back to the NVIDIA Shield. Tom, there's yet another one.
Oh my gosh.
I currently have 4 Shields, 1 Mi Box, and 6 Fire TVs. The Shield TVs are hands down the most powerful devices I've used. They get updated regularly, and now the NVIDIA Game Pass is free. It has console quality games at no additional cost. The other Shield guy, Keith Stewart. Thank you so much, Keith.
Oh, fantastic. And then is that it for the Shield people? Okay, good. Tom from St. Louis writes, hey, killers. I'm currently using a Synology DS918 Plus to host my Plex server. It works great for my small household and the couple of family members who occasionally access my library remotely. The Synology OS is user-friendly and easy to manage remotely. Hope this helps out the emailer from last week. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, man. Okay, I wanted to set up this whole bit where every other letter was another Shield people. We get it. There's a lot of NVIDIA Shield users out there because here's the funny part, Tom. I only put half of them into the doc and we can't even get to all of them. We know that there's very, very good reasons to use NVIDIA
But
Shield.
We do know no one uses an Apple TV, so we'll not get any emails about that.
Andy writes in saying, hey, Brian, Tom, and Bryce. Okay, so Brian asked for it. Here it is. I have an Amazon Echo. Is that okay to say?
Echo Spot.
Okay, Echo Spot, and I regularly use it with video. I picked up one thinking it would be in my bedroom, and I'd actually decided to put it in my home office, my primary workspace. That office is upstairs, and I can't hear the doorbell, but I have an Amazon cloud camera out in front as well as the one out back, and I can ask you-know-who to show me the front yard or the backyard. The most recent use case was on Friday as he waited for his new iPhone. He gets alerts where the person is detecting in the front yard. He could pull up the camera really quick enough to see whether it's a FedEx truck or a solicitor or what have you. Fair enough. He points out that I didn't specifically ask whether it was for entertainment value, but instead, super legit reason to have the video on the Echo Spot.
We want pictures of people watching Hulu on the Echo Spot. All right. That's what we wanted. This is a perfectly legitimate and reasonable use of the Echo Spot. That's not what
we were talking about. We're like, who enjoys their television in 2 inches in a circle?
Finally, John in Orlando wrote in and said, in regards to the Apple TV story and them canceling the Dr. Dre show and asking other shows to be less dark or more upbeat so it'll be more family friendly, I'm fine with there being another family friendly channel because I'm sure there's a market for that. The thing I didn't understand is if that was the goal all along, why didn't they tell the people making the show that they were looking for family friendly in the first place? I 100% agree with John. He goes on to say, like, you don't ask for a documentary of Dr. Dre or a movie based on Dr. Dre's life and not expect something that is along the lines of what Dr. Dre does.
I mean, the obvious answer is they didn't really know. They still apparently don't seem to know what they're looking for, and there's that lag time, and they did not begin with the ending in mind. They're still figuring it out, and that means, weird moments like this when they randomly announce.
I mean, we know Apple and Bono are very close, but you don't have to make "I still haven't found what I'm looking for" your company mantra.
God, Tom.
It's a long way. It's fine. It's fine. Hey, Jeff, how you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people see so much more of your beautiful opinions?
Well, if you want to follow me, I am on Twitter. Look up J Peterson. I would appreciate that. Other than that, email, I'm still hoping my AOL email address becomes somewhat popular, somewhat trendy again. So I'm keeping that. So it's jpeterson0179@aol.com. Feel free to reach out.
That's fantastic. And so the one last question I had about the whole candy movie interaction, I was under the impression like, if you're in the candy business, you've got the leverage over the theaters, right? Because that's how they make their money. It sounds like it's still a battle no matter who you are.
It is, yeah. If you think about candy, I mean, there's so many different candy manufacturers that are fighting for space. So, the leverage really is still with all the movie theaters because everybody wants to get one more candy item in that candy case.
Well, and meanwhile, I assume that in general, the candy folks, I'm talking to you like the candy, you candy people. I assume that you've got two priorities. One is you battle over the real estate on the storefront, but number two, you hope for success. Like you just want this to be a popular place with high traffic, so that you guys can move more of your goods, right?
Well, I think so. So I'm responsible for selling more every year, so I can't hope for success. There has to be successful, unfortunately or fortunately. So, I mean, we're just trying to put together different strategies to try to get more people to buy into the category. When you look at popcorn and you look at soda, over 50% of the people that are walking through the door are buying popcorn or soda. In the case of candy, that category is 8 to 10% of the people. So there's a big opportunity for us. One of the things we see from a strategy perspective is how can we link the candy purchase with the soda and popcorn. So when you go into your theater and you look at all the combos, you see a pizza combo, you see a pretzel combo. Why is there not a candy combo? So that's really something from a strategic standpoint we're trying to drive.
Is that whole Mr. Robot bit where he puts the M&Ms in the popcorn? Is that big candy placing that?
Jeff himself wrote that in the script by hand, I assume.
They don't let me near any scripts, trust me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Jeff Peterson, thank you so much for joining us. I have forgiven you for drawing a mustache on that 1978 Keith Hernandez you traded me back in 1978. So I'm glad we could move past that and do this show today. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk to you next time.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your name in pixels on the
classic
internet.
names in there. But some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.